Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure and honour to be here and to celebrate the third anniversary of Laudato Si. It's quite difficult for me. I'm a politician, so sitting down and speaking is really quite difficult. But I just want to start off by saying how lucky we are to be living today. We're lucky because this is the moment in human history in which, for the first time, we're having to learn a new way of living with each other. Not because the philosophers or the theologians have told us that, but because there is no other way of solving global problems than having global answers. And that actually means that we have to treat each other as partners, instead of the historic way in which human beings have always been imperialists, since the first village bashed up its neighbour in order to get the grazing rights. That's the way human beings have lived. And we are having to learn, not because we believe, although many of us who are Catholics and Christians who do believe that we ought to live in this way, not just because the philosophers have told us, but simply because if we don't, we cannot solve the problems of the world. And that seems to me to give us a huge opportunity. And we should be much more interested in the enthusiasm and opportunity than making people feel miserable by saying, in a Puritan way, you've all got to live in a much less active and interesting way. The fact is, we are going to have to find ways to grow in a different way. Not to grow, for we have to solve the problems of poverty and all the other things which really face communities throughout the world. But we have to do it in a sustainable manner. And in doing that, we create economic opportunities which we would not otherwise have. So don't let's get miserable about it. Let us put the joy into sustainable development. Because it's not just sustainability, it's development. It's giving people opportunities which they haven't had before. Cardinal Newman said, "Growth is the only evidence of life." What we've got wrong is the definition of growth. There is so much growth that can be done not to the detriment of other people, but actually to their opportunity. And that's why I believe that we have a real chance today to change the world. And before we get depressed, as we should be, about the appalling conditions in which we have left our planet, let's just remember that we are on our way to change it. And the great thing about Laudato Si is that it has at its heart a statement which none of the great statesmen and leaders have said before. And that is that climate change is a symptom. It's a symptom of the way that we have treated the world. And that's why it's all interrelated. That's why the eradication of poverty. That's why the determination to protect our flora and fauna. That's why development organizations are working together with environmental organizations throughout the world, because it's part of the same problem. And so, as I sit as chairman of our Climate Change Committee, setting the targets which Britain has to meet, battering the government round the ears for not doing it, battering the opposition for not being tough enough with the government, as I do that, I do it with a sense of real joy. I believe we can achieve it. And one of the things that should go out from this conference is that belief. That is at the heart of our Catholic faith, that this is not a world that God will abandon, but it's a world in which we have to play our part. Always remember my father's sermon once, because I'm a convert. My father made a sermon about the boy and the 2 fishes and the 5 barley loaves. Jesus could have fed the 5,000 without any help from the small boy, but he wanted that help. And we're in that position too. We can change the world because that's our duty. It's part of our creative task. That's the great gift we've been given. We are co-creators, as Cardinal Parolin has just said. And in that, we have a great responsibility, because we know in medieval times, 1 in 3 of the population died because of the Black Death. No one knew why that was. And the church did all the wrong things. It got people together to worship and to go to mass and to march. And of course, that was the worst thing possible because they gave it to each other, but they didn't know. We do know. And because we know, we have the responsibility to act. Because we know, we cannot avoid our playing our part in saving this world and standing for the world which God meant and which we now have to repair.